2 years ago, I set out to investigate who was in the House of Dead series, particularly behind the voices. This investigation has led me down several paths, to meeting voice actors, interviewing them, and chatting to them over email to try to uncover the secrets behind this video game series. This video will detail my investigation over the last 2 years. It will be heavily segmented, meaning that not everything will flow correctly. However, I have done it in this way because many of the points I've gotten are from the different games, and from different topics. Before the video begins, I must say a big thank you to Multibrawler, the people at the Wiki of the Dead, the people of the House of Dead Discord, the Speedrunning Discord, and Santo for helping me out during this investigation. An additional important point. The people mentioned in this video, and the people I've been investigating, majority of them do not want to be contacted. Please do not harass, go and try to find any of these people, as I don't wish to put any hate on them, and additionally, I don't wish to annoy them. One final point to mention. The majority of the points I'll be making in this video may not be entirely confirmed, and I will personally say when that is the case. A lot of these are speculation, and a lot of these do have proof behind them. However, because we don't definitively know who was in the game, and because we know so little information, a lot of assumptions have to be made. Which means that please do not take any of this as fact, unless I have some heavy proof behind it. Over a year ago, I had the honor to chat to Eric Kelso and Walter Roberts through Zoom interviews. After the initial interviews with them, I wanted to chat to them about the House of Dead series, as they had been working with Sega around the time of the game's development and release. Although nothing too important was found from talking to them, there were some interesting points and responses I got from them which I'll play after this.
Okay, here's what I think is going on here with Michael Gwyn. Born in 1961 in El Paso. He is an actor known for Silent Hill, blah, blah, blah. I think that this guy probably did the job in the States. I'm not sure how that happened, but I don't recognize him as anyone I've ever worked with before, and from his bio there, it looks like he's from the States.
It was one of those things in which I've written down a quote here, and it literally says, listening to Thomas Rogan, which is one of the characters in those games. Again, is there a chance that it could be Eric Kelso?
I said before, a lot of times we don't know what games
100%, yeah.
It's all top secret, and so as we're doing the recording, they just give us the lines and the character, and if we say, what's this game called, they say, can't tell you. You know, we can't do that. We can't tell you that.
He says he started working in 2000, like voice acting for games.
Yeah, about right.
And the game came out, the game was in development in 96 or 97, I think it was, which I put it down as. And he credits himself as working on the game, so you can see how that's confusing. It's House of the Dead 2. It had the codename Original Sin. After this initial interview, Eric got back to me with some responses. See, I had messaged him during the interview, giving him a couple of YouTube links that directed him towards some of the voice acting in House of Dead series. In particular, looking at Goldman, the House of Dead 1 voice actors, and certain clips of House of Dead 2. Along with the YouTube links, I gave Eric a couple of names to casually throw out to see if he could correlate one with one, or if he knew them and said, well, they would most likely be in projects from that time. His responses were very notable. Mainly looking at Jeff Manning, who was not in the game after looking at different voices from the series, and Michael Gwyn, who we'll get onto later. In the second part of the message, I had mentioned to him voices from House of Dead 2, which was Corey Bringus, Scott McCulloch, and David, I'm not going to pronounce his last name, and additionally Tom Clark, in which the only one he knew was Tom. Meaning that, although this could be a huge coincidence, they might not have been as big in Japan, as we all know that Corey was most likely in the US during that time as he was a kid. A secondary part of the message in which I responded to him was to do with Michael Gwyn, because Michael Gwyn was the person who mentioned Tom, in which the other response in which people were thinking was that Eric might have been Thomas Rogan from the first game, in which he straight up denied it. Additionally, which we'll come up to later, that it might not be Michael after all. Although these two interviews give us a little bit of insight into how voice acting was done, and maybe a little bit behind the scenes, as in asking them if they know anything about the voices, there is not much info to go off of these. Although we can now say that Jeff Manning was done in the series, that was something that was already speculated. Additionally, we can now put away that it's not Eric Kelso, and it might not be Michael Gwyn, which we'll get into in a minute. If you've had a look at the IMDb page behind the voice actors page of House of Dead 1, Mick Gwyn or Michael Gwyn is the most common name which pops up to be associated with additional voices and potential to be Thomas Rogan. During a heavy investigation into Michael Gwyn's previous work, and maybe a comment he's made on the series, I found something quite interesting. Michael Gwyn actually runs a YouTube channel in which he is known by Mick Gwyn, which is sometimes who he is credited by. Although this channel is now child-locked, meaning that all of the comments are disabled on the majority of his videos, I took archives of certain ones were heavily important to this investigation. Taken roughly a year ago, these clips show Michael responding directly to a House of Dead related question. To keep it brief on Michael's response, which is on screen now, he goes through the fact that, considering how long ago these works were, and considering that some of his works that he did during his voice acting around the 2000s weren't as notable, the only runs that really stuck out to him were the ones in which he'd put in a lot of effort or required certain things from him. So for example, using Silent Hill or using Castlevania, which left his voice pretty croaky and pretty poor considering the amount of screaming he had to do. Michael, after this commented that if the person provided a link, he might be able to identify his own voice. This part of the video is recycling old information, in which I'll admit where some others haven't.
DCF Bank Stadium was completed just 15 months ago, and now it's time for another construction project, the rebuilding of the Golden Gophers football team.
Ryan Drees is a name that gets shoved in front of the House of Dead community quite often, due to the fact that he is the only known person to credit himself throughout the whole series of games, with the exception of House of Dead 3 and Overkill. Ryan is someone who clearly does not want to be contacted about the game, nor really wants to talk about the game. So whenever I get into the points related to him, these are heavily speculated or from friend accounts. Early on in my investigation I found Ryan, in which had credited himself on the game. This information was given to Multi-Brawler, in which was then posted on the wiki. Although not much is known about his involvement, his voice is remarkably similar to James in the House of the Dead 2. Although originally speculated to be Goldman, personally I think that the James theory is correct, from references to his voice from current works to his voice in previous works in which he worked with Sega in the 2000s. Although not much can be said about this lead, and although Ryan won't comment on it himself, there was evidence that some people have contacted him in the past in which he did not have any idea about his involvement in the game series, let alone if he was in the game series. Lynn Harris was a name that popped up on my radar when she was the only one that people definitively said was in the House of Dead series. Although there has never been merit to this claim, I did think it was interesting, so I tried to reach out to her, in which is not possible. She doesn't have any contacts, and when you try to look her up, it's very clear that she does not want to be found in any way, shape or form. However, interestingly enough, through contacting Dean Harrington for a later point that I'll bring up, I found that he went ahead and contacted her for me. As suspected, however, Lynn doesn't know if she was in the game herself, and I probably suspect that she has no real motivation to find out. The only definitive thing we know comes from Walter Roberts, in which Lynn Harris had a talent agency back in the 2000s. This can correspond with what Dean Harrington said originally, which was, if Lynn Harris was involved, it was likely I was involved, as Dean was under this agency. The name of Lynn Harris.
Did you talk to Lynn?
No, I have not. Apparently,
Okay.
she's very hard to get in contact with.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in years, but she had her own agency here.
Yeah.
And I did some work with her, but I haven't seen her, and I don't know if she's even still in Japan.
This point does come under heavy speculation, as voice actors in Japan come under multiple different agencies, which is different from what people in the US do. Which means that although, yes, I can say that he was in her agency, he was probably in several agencies at that time. In April of 2024, a previous developer in House of Dead 1 came forward that some of his voice lines that he had recorded for the demo version of the game or early copies of the game was still in the game, and not re-recorded with different voice actors. Credit goes to Multi-Brawler here for posting on the 24th of April on the Speedrunners at Dead Discord server for finding and posting this information. The post on X says that, come to think of it, I was listing the credits for the original commercial version of The House of Dead. I helped with things like stage names and English translations of the script. I also did a demo of the temporary voice to align the length, and the main characters were replaced later. But the voice of the male researcher, who appears at the beginning of the first stage, saying things like, "Oh no," and "Ah," remains mine. A link to this tweet can be found in the description. Additionally, it is now posted on the screen. In response to Korimaru, they also commented, "Actually, I did the voices of all the characters of Stage 1 as placeholders for the prototype to let the dev team set the pacing. I didn't expect any to remain in the final product." One of the key points that was addressed in Luke Corrier's video on the House of Dead voice acting was Flynn R. On the video Voice Over Disasters House of Dead 2, if you scroll down to the comments, you'll find one by PracticeBot13, also known as Flynn R. Flynn R's original comment was all of the voice actors were American translators residing in Japan. So the reason why most of the voice acting was so bad in the game was mainly because the actors had to read and act out the script, which was in Japanese at the same time, all with no clue of what was going on. Corey Bringus was the only VA who was decent enough because he voiced Tails in Sonic Adventure and didn't directly work with sound director, not going to pronounce that, since Corey did his voice acting in San Diego instead of Japan. He was given a script that was pre-translated to English since he wasn't a legal translator. The voice acting was done in a single day. All but Corey were translators, not actors, and the VAs also had to work with two other Sega arcade games on the same day, Vampire Knight and Ghost Squad. Doing some research online, I managed to discover the VA cast. He then lists out several names and who they might have been. Although I could go through this, I do not want to be recycling information like Luke had done originally. However, Luke did provide some relevant points as to why these people were probably not in the series. Please go check out his video for more clarification on why these people were probably not in the series. The reason why this post was brought up was not because of the information inside of it, was because why did Flynn post this? What was behind this comment, and did it actually have any validation? After a bit of investigation, I was able to actually get in contact with Flynn over Discord, in which I asked him about his infamous comment 8 years after it was originally posted. Flynn's comment will be posted on screen, in which the most important things to take out of this was that most of the info was disproven. He had found some of the information which he posted on a now long dead fighting game forum and a Google search he did. And additionally, the part about the studio recording multiple games was bullshit on his part, mainly taking off of a Sonic YouTuber who had talked about how the Sonic Adventure cast voiced their lines in a crappy studio over an hour, and assumed that the House of Dead 2 voice cast went through similar conditions. Although I had a long discussion with Flynn to find out he was actually a very kind person and very similar to me in many ways, he didn't have much information to give me, which is very understandable, and please do not go harass him. His original point is heavily disproven, however provides some merit to say that other people were most likely talking about this before him, in which he just regurgitated the information into a different format. One last comment to make is that the forum that he probably found this off of was Virtua related. However, something does not add up, because a second commenter also posted about Russ Veillard, a voice actor who has come up on multiple different threads to do with House of the Dead. The commenter that mentions this name is Converse's Vance. Now, this was 8 years ago to the time of recording, 7 years ago to the time of me taking the screenshot. The response was, I've come to believe that the voice actor with Goldman was an American native of Japan named Russ Veillard. He's not credited in the game, but I read about it on someone else's YouTube comment, did some research, and found some voice samples of the guy. It vaguely sounds like Goldman, if at all. Now, this is probably referring to Flynn R's comment. However, it is just important to put in here for the sake of saying that could be a name that's being thrown around. I'm great friends with a creator called Santo Potter, and one of the things that we ran by each other was the theory that House of the Dead 2 was related to Shenmue 2 in terms of its voice acting. A lot of people speculated to be in House of Dead 2 were very coincidentally in Shenmue 2. This unfortunately does not mean a whole lot. When I had a chat to Eric when I visited Japan late last year, I chatted to him about his involvement with other voice actors several times over. And over a chat at a burger shop, we talked about the fact that he tended to see the same people in the studio quite often, since there was really only a handful amount of people that typically did these roles. Linking the fact that most likely the House of Dead 2 cast also participated in Shenmue. In order to research the House of Dead voice actors, a predominant point gets brought up that really needs to be shelved now, which is that, are they computer generated? No. From my knowledge, and from what I've seen online, they are not computer generated. There is a reason why they spoke how they did. Over some sake, I had a chat to Eric about why the Japanese wanted the voices that the way they did and why it was recorded in a certain fashion. Whilst talking to Eric about his involvement with Shenmue and certain other projects, I asked him, well, why do Japanese game or voice coordinators make you speak in a certain way? In which he brought up the fact that, considering that you're in Japan where they speak Japanese, and if they were getting English people to do English, in which most Japanese people would understand, certain pronunciations are needed in order to give emphasis and in order to make words sound a certain way to Japanese people who may not understand exactly what they're hearing. This can be seen in House of Dead 2's voices. I'll play a couple clips now, and if you can hear something, well, keep that in mind as of what I'm going to say.
Only man himself can control its fate. You're nothing, Goldman. I don't care if a successor comes or not. Amy! Harry! Are you all right? Amy? What happened, Amy? The enemies started an all-out attack. How could anyone do this? What the hell's going on in this city?
One thing you made a thought to yourself was, well, the pronunciating or pronouncing certain things in a word. So for example, if I'm saying amazing, they may go, amazing! Or they may try to emphasize certain letters. Dogs of the AMS was said without the pronunciation. However, an expression like, it is me, Goldman, uses that pronunciation. Now, the next time you play House of the Dead, you'll start to realize that that is very common in the way that the voice actors portrayed the characters. Moving forwards, it may not seem like there is many avenues in order to explore the voice actors any further. However, this is untrue, and what I hope to share with you in this next portion of the video is the leads and things that I may not have explored that much, and things that you can do to help this investigation. Corey Bringus is brought up significantly in discussion of House of Dead 2 Gary, in which many speculate that he was, like I said, Gary. However, this comes with little to no merit and little to no backing to it, as if you look at the age of Corey and when he records Sonic Adventure 1, he would have been a child. There is a point in saying that Sega actually replaced him with his brother in Sonic Adventure 2 because his voice deepened. However, this was at least 2 years difference. And if he would have gone from the studio of Sonic Adventure 1 to House of the Dead 2, his voice would not have changed in several days or months. So really, I personally think he's out of the equation, although it could possibly be him if Sonic Adventure was recorded at a very early date in development. Back to the Shenmue theory. A voice actress in which I personally believe is Amy is Michelle Gazepis, in which I'm very sorry if I've butchered that name. However, I've put her name on screen now, you'll see a picture of her, you'll see everything else. In my opinion, she's Amy. That is because she comes from Australian descent, Australian background, has a mixed British accent, and this can be best seen in a Mega Man Iris clip.
Yes, I know, but I wanted to believe it. I wanted to live in a world where only Reploids exist. How could anyone do this? Yes, this is Amy. Yes. Yes. It seems that Goldman left a message for us.
Now, there is very little evidence to link her to the House of Dead, besides from the Shenmue proof, in saying that, of course, in Shenmue 2 you had Ryan Drees, who's already said he's in House of Dead 2, in which many people think he's James. She's in Shenmue 2, in which also Dean Harrington is in Shenmue 2, which means that certain things start to line up. Other than that, the only speculation is that she worked with Sega at the time, she was active at the time, and Amy, if you look back, actually holds an Australian accent, or more commonly, a New Zealander accent. Vampire Knight uses some of the same voice clips and sound bites as the House of Dead 2. This was most likely because they were recorded around the same time. Although I do not personally believe any voice actors were shared between the series, a lot of the voice lines were used, as I said, between both games, which means they could have been recorded for one or the other, and they can interchange. The only reason why this is brought up is because if I'm proven wrong in this situation, and someone was in Vampire Knight, as also in House of Dead 2, then that could be a heavy lead as to finding the rest of the cast. However, similarly to House of Dead 2, Vampire Knight completely goes uncredited. This, of course, is a PlayStation 2 game, and was released around the same period. A final point that can be brought up is Michael McGarren, which is more commonly known as Knuckles from Sonic Adventure 1. This links up with the Corey Bringus theory, in saying that some of the voice cast might have been shared. This was brought up in a comment under a Knuckles voice clips compilation, in which someone compared his voice to that of James and some of the other characters in House of Dead 2. Although this comes with some credit to say that the voice is heavily similar, there is nothing heavily underneath that point proving that it to be true or false. So take it with a grain of salt, research that, investigate it. I really could not find much past the initial idea that it could be the same person.
Location. Place of creation.
Is he invincible? Heard a voice over there.
I have this feeling I've met these guys somewhere, but perhaps it's better that way. I'm at peace once more.
For now, this is all I have. I really cannot understate the fact that 2 years of progress being seen in a video which isn't that long doesn't seem too impressive. The fact is that this investigation has really come up with nothing. And although I wouldn't want to admit that, the fact is that I really do need to. The House of Dead voice actors is a very tough topic to research online, and looking in several different languages with a lot of help, I really cannot find much online. Now that's why I need your help, and I need your suggestions. So if you can comment down below, I can guide you in certain directions, or if you want to chat to me, I'm regular on a bunch of different Discords related to House of the Dead. However, I must conclude saying this really does not come up with much. It gives us new insights and leads into some of the different voices. However, it really does not say much, and it really does not prove the fact that anyone was truly in the series. Of course, I'll keep investigating, I'll keep updating, and I'll keep trying to put out as much information as possible as new things are being uncovered every day. This investigation has taken a while, and of course I thanked people at the start, but I'll thank them again. Thank you to Multi-Brawler for helping me out both live in person when I was talking to Daniel Duncan. He was someone that was discovered to be the House of Dead, the attraction voice actor lead, in which I'd found a while ago. You can find it on the Twitter page or X page of the Wiki of the Dead. Thank you to Santo Potter for supporting me on all this and helping with me with a bit of research. He's a great person. Thank you to the House of Dead's Discord. There's a main one out there. Really cool people on there. And thank you to the Speedrunning Discord, which I'm a part of. I'm one of the heads of it. Really cool people in there also. But yeah, everyone's helped me out here. Yeah, of course, like I said before, if you want to help me out on this investigation, come and contact me. I can give all the information I currently have. But yes, thank you for watching. Hopefully this wasn't too disappointing, a little bit interesting. Please don't send hate, and please not go to these people necessarily. Like I said at the beginning, a lot of these people don't want to be contacted. I've done the research here. This is what we have. This is what I'm going to update you with. I really didn't want to regurgitate information that people already knew. This was stuff in which I found interesting. A lot of people did not know when I told them. This was stuff in which I would have found interesting in the video. Give it to you guys, see what you're going to do with it. If you want to subscribe, that'd be great. I've got some interviews with some amazing people on this channel. I recently interviewed a House of Dead 2 remake voice actor. Really nice Aussie dude. So, I mean, it was great considering I'm Aussie myself to chat to someone. But yeah, please subscribe, please like this video, please share it around, that'd be great. And yeah, I'll keep you updated. I'm Electro, and yeah, thank you.